My mom told me, "You won't be at Thanksgiving this year. Your sister's new husband says you'd kill the vibe." I stayed silent. The next morning, when he came to my office and saw me, he began yelling, because my mother's words hit me like a cold wave. "You won't be at Thanksgiving this year. Brooke's new husband thinks you'll ruin the vibe." I said nothing, but the silence screamed. What none of them knew was that the man who dared exclude me was about to walk into my office, unaware I held his entire future in my hands. It was a quiet Tuesday evening, the hum of the San Francisco skyline just outside my office window. Mom's voice, though, cut through the calm with that familiar, strained edge, the one I'd known for 33 years. It was the tone she used for news she knew would sting, but had already decided was somehow necessary. "Honey, about Thanksgiving this year," she started, and I could hear her tiptoeing to a quieter room, away from Dad. "Brooke's new husband, Ethan, well, he's still getting comfortable with the family dynamics." "Just say it, Mom." My eyes were fixed on the spreadsheet, the numbers blurring. "He thinks it might be better if you sat this one out. He feels like your presence might create an uncomfortable atmosphere, given your success and everything." Brooke, apparently, agreed. It would be easier on everyone, especially little Chloe and Leo. They're so excited about their new stepdad, and we don't want anything to overshadow that. I didn't speak for a long moment, the silence between us a gaping chasm. "You understand, don't you? It's just one holiday. Maybe Christmas will be different." Her voice pleaded now, begging me to make it easy. "Sure, Mom. Whatever makes everyone comfortable." I hung up, cutting off any more excuses. Brooke, my younger sister, had always been the family darling. I was ambitious, driven, she was warm, free-spirited. I built a career, she built a home. My parents never quite knew what to do with me, the daughter who chose boardrooms over playdates, who left San Francisco at 22 and never looked back. Brooke married her high school sweetheart at 21, divorced at 28, then dated a string of men Dad called works in progress. Ethan was her latest, a regional sales manager she'd met at a Dallas conference. They'd been married for 4 months. What none of them knew, what I carefully kept out of family chatter and social media, was the exact nature of my work. To them, I had some corporate job in San Francisco. Mom told her friends I worked in business development, which was technically true the way saying someone works with animals could describe both a zookeeper and a veterinary surgeon. I was the chief operating officer of Hartman Industries, one of the largest pharmaceutical distribution companies on the East Coast. My signature was on contracts worth hundreds of millions. My decisions affected supply chains across 17 states. And for the past 6 months, I'd been overseeing the acquisition of smaller regional distributors, consolidating our market position. Ethan worked for Med Supply Solutions, a mid-sized distributor based in Ohio. I knew this because I'd reviewed their preliminary acquisition documents 3 weeks prior. His name was on their organizational chart, Regional Sales Manager, Northeast Territory. Within 2 days, his company would receive our official acquisition offer. In 6 weeks, if all went according to plan, Ethan would be working for me. But I hadn't connected the dots until Mom's phone call. Ethan had Brooke's maiden name on all his social media, and Brooke's posts tagged him just as Ethan, with no last name visible unless you really dug deep. His last name was Morrison. I'd simply never put the pieces together because work and family existed in completely separate universes for me. The irony was exquisite. The man who thought I'd ruin the vibe of Thanksgiving dinner was about to have his entire career placed squarely in my hands. That evening, I reviewed everything we had on Med Supply Solutions. Ethan Morrison had been with the company for 6 years, climbing from sales associate. His performance reviews were adequate, nothing spectacular, nothing concerning. He managed a team of 8 and hit his targets 3 out of the last 4 quarters. He was, in every way, perfectly average. The acquisition meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning at our San Francisco office. Diana Hayes, MedSupply's CEO, would be there, along with their CFO and several department heads. Standard procedure usually excluded regional managers from initial acquisition talks, but Diana had specifically requested her key sales leaders attend to answer operational questions. Ethan would be there. In my conference room. Sitting across from me. I called my executive assistant, Sarah, at 7 the next morning. Sarah, for tomorrow's med supply meeting, I want name plaques at each seat. Make them prominent. And send me the complete attendance list by noon. Of course. Any particular reason for the plaques? We don't usually. I want everyone to know exactly who they're dealing with. I could hear the smile in my own voice. Thursday morning arrived with the kind of crisp November weather that makes San Francisco feel alive. I dressed carefully, a navy suit from a high-end boutique, heels that added 3 inches to my 5 feet 9 inches frame, and the Cartier watch Dad had given me when I made VP 5 years ago. He'd looked uncomfortable giving it to me, as if a daughter's success required a different, harder kind of celebration than he was used to. The med supply team arrived at 9:30 for our 10 o'clock meeting. I watched them on the security feed as they checked in at the lobby, noting how Ethan repeatedly adjusted his tie and whispered something to a colleague. They looked nervous. Good. Sarah escorted them to the 14th floor conference room, offering coffee and water while they waited. I gave them 10 minutes to settle in before making my entrance. Our conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Market Street. Our company logo dominated one wall in brushed steel letters. The table was solid walnut, surrounded by 16 leather chairs. Everything about the space was designed to project power and permanence. I entered with my acquisitions team, Michael Vance, our CFO, Olivia Chin, head of operations, and Daniel Park, chief legal counsel. We moved as a unit, carrying tablets and folders, projecting the absolute confidence of people who held every advantage. Ethan saw me immediately. I watched his face cycle through confusion, recognition, and then complete, obvious horror. His mouth literally fell open. The folder in his hand slipped, and papers scattered across the polished table. Good morning, everyone. I took my seat at the head of the table, directly opposite Diana Hayes. Thank you for making the trip from Cleveland. I'm sure you're all eager to discuss how Hartman Industries can provide a path forward for med supply solutions. Diana, a sharp-eyed woman in her early 60s, smiled professionally. We're very interested in hearing your proposal. I brought some of our key personnel to provide insight into our operations. She gestured around the table. Our CFO, Robert Young, our operations director, Laura Scott, and several of our regional sales managers, including Ethan Morrison, who oversees our Northeast Territory. Ethan had gone pale. Genuinely pale. He started to stand, then sat back down, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Mr. Morrison, I met his eyes directly. I've reviewed your performance data. Solid numbers in Q2 and Q3. That territory has significant growth potential. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. This is something wrong? Olivia Chin looked at him with professional concern. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair rolling backward. I need bathroom. Excuse me. He practically ran from the room. Diana frowned. I apologize. Ethan's normally much more composed. The acquisition news has everyone a bit on edge. Perfectly understandable, I said smoothly. These transitions create anxiety. Shall we begin with the financial overview while Mr. Morrison composes himself? Ethan didn't return for 30 minutes. When he finally slipped back into the room, he'd sweated through his shirt collar and looked like he might vomit. He avoided my gaze completely, staring at the table in front of him as if it held the secrets of the universe. The meeting proceeded exactly as planned. We outlined our offer, generous in some ways, ruthlessly specific in others. Hartman Industries would acquire 100% of Med Supply Solutions assets. Current leadership would remain during a 6-month transition period. After that, organizational restructuring would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. I made sure to emphasize that last point while looking directly at Ethan. We value talent and proven performance. Those who demonstrate value to the new organization will find opportunities for growth. Those who don't meet our standards will obviously need to pursue other options. Ethan actually whimpered. The sound was quiet, but in the hush of the conference room, several people heard it. A few heads turned his direction. When the meeting concluded, Diana approached me with a firm handshake. This is excellent work. I think we can move forward productively. May I ask, Ethan seemed to have some kind of reaction to you. Do you two have history? You could say that. I smiled. He's married to my sister. Diana's eyebrows shot up. Your sister? And he didn't know you were. We keep family and business separate. Or at least, I do. I handed her my card. Have your legal team review our proposal. We can schedule a follow-up for next week. As the med supply team filed out, Ethan lingered near the door. He looked like a man heading to his own execution. Ms. Hartwell? His voice cracked slightly. Could I speak with you privately? I checked my watch. I have 15 minutes before my next meeting. The room cleared. Ethan closed the door and turned to face me, struggling to find words. You're Brooke's sister. Her older sister who works in business development in San Francisco. He said it like an accusation. That's what I tell the family. They're not interested in the details of corporate operations. I remained standing, keeping the power dynamic clear. You're going to fire me. His voice was flat. That depends entirely on your performance and value to the organization post-acquisition. Brooke said you were successful, but she didn't. Jesus Christ, you're the COO of Hartman Industries. He ran his hands through his hair. And I told her you'd ruin Thanksgiving. I said you were too caught up in your own success to care about family. Is there a question in there somewhere, Mr. Morrison? He flinched at the formality. Are you doing this because of what I said? About Thanksgiving? I let the silence stretch for a long moment. Let him squirm. I didn't know you worked for Med Supply until after my mother's phone call, I said finally. The acquisition has been in progress for months. Your employment situation has nothing to do with family politics and everything to do with whether you're an asset worth keeping. But you could fire me now. You could make sure I'm cut in the restructuring. I could. I picked up my tablet. The question is whether you've given me a reason to. Ethan's face went through several expressions: fear, anger, calculation. What do you want? I want you to do your job competently. I want you to prove your worth the salary Med Supply pays you. And I want you to understand that your position in my family gives you exactly zero leverage in this building. And Thanksgiving? I smiled then, and it wasn't kind. That's a family matter. I suggest you discuss it with your wife. He left looking shell-shocked. I had another meeting in 20 minutes, so I pushed the entire interaction into a mental compartment labeled handled and moved on with my day. Brooke called that evening while I was at the gym. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message while cooling down on the treadmill. Nat, it's me. Ethan just got home and he's freaking out about something at work. He says you're his new boss. That can't be right. Call me back, please. This is really confusing. I finished my workout, showered, ordered Thai food, and called her back at 8:30. Explain to me what's happening. Brooke's voice had that edge of panic she got when life stopped following her script. Ethan says you're some big executive at the company buying his company. Is that true? Yes. Just, yes. Nat, what the hell? You never said you were. We thought you did like marketing or something. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Hartman Industries. We're acquiring med supply solutions. Ethan attended the initial meeting this morning. I kept my voice neutral. Factual. Oh my God. Oh my God. Nat. Is he going to lose his job? We have a mortgage. Chloe needs braces. Leo's in that special reading program that costs. His job status depends on his performance, just like everyone else in the organization. Performance. He's great at his job. He's been promoted twice. Then he has nothing to worry about. I paused. How was Mom's call to you? Did she mention uninviting me from Thanksgiving? Silence. Complete silence on the other end. Brooke, that was Ethan's idea. Her voice had gone small. He said it might be awkward having you there because you're single and successful, and he didn't want Mom and Dad making comparisons all day. I thought he was being silly, but Mom agreed it might be easier, and I went along with it. You went along with uninviting me from family Thanksgiving because your husband of 4 months felt insecure. When you say it like that, it sounds terrible. How else should I say it? More silence. Can you please not fire him? Please. I know we screwed up about Thanksgiving and I'm sorry, but Ethan's a good guy. He's good to me and the kids. He made a mistake. I thought about Ethan's face in that conference room. The fear, the realization that the world was not arranged the way he'd assumed it was. I'm not going to fire him, Brooke. Not unless he gives me a professional reason to. But I need you to understand something. My career, my position, the work I do, that's not something I'm going to downplay or hide so that other people feel more comfortable. I never asked you to. You've been doing it for years. Oh, Nat has some job in San Francisco. Nat's too busy to come home for Easter. Nat's so focused on work, she forgot what matters. I've listened to it every holiday for a decade. Brooke's breath hitched. We just don't understand your life. It's so different from ours. Have you ever tried to understand it? Asked what I actually do? Shown any interest beyond whether I'll be at the next family gathering? No response. Tell Ethan to do his job well, and he'll be fine. Tell Mom and Dad I'll be spending Thanksgiving in San Francisco. And Brooke, maybe think about why your husband's first instinct was to exclude me rather than get to know me. I ended the call before she could respond. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of due diligence, contract negotiations, and integration planning. Ethan kept his head down and performed adequately. Nothing spectacular, nothing worth firing him over. He was professional in all our interactions, which were mercifully few. The week before Thanksgiving, Dad called. Your mother's upset about the holiday situation, he said without preamble. Says you're not coming home. That's correct. Because of Brooke and Ethan. Because I wasn't invited, Dad. There's a difference. He sighed. That particular sound of male discomfort with emotional complexity. Your sister feels terrible. Ethan feels like an idiot. Your mother's been crying. And yet, nobody thought to actually call and re-invite me. Interesting. I'm calling. Come home for Thanksgiving. We'll all sit down and work this out like adults. Will we? Will Ethan apologize for deciding I was too successful to include? Will Brooke acknowledge that she chose her new husband's comfort over her own sister? Will Mom admit she took the easy path instead of defending her own daughter? Dad was quiet for a long moment. When did you get so hard, Natalie? The question landed like a punch. When I realized being soft meant being erased. When I understood that my accomplishments made everyone uncomfortable. When I learned that success in a woman is something families tolerate rather than celebrate. That's not fair, isn't it? When I made VP, Mom's first response was, "That's nice, honey, but don't you want to settle down?" When I bought my apartment in San Francisco, you asked if I was sure I could afford it. When I got promoted to COO, Brooke said I was married to my job. None of you have ever just been proud. We are proud. You're uncomfortable. There's a difference. I softened my voice slightly. Dad, I love you. I love all of you, but I'm tired of shrinking myself so everyone else feels adequate. I built something real here, and I'm not going to apologize for it. He cleared his throat. What if we do apologize? What if Ethan and Brooke and your mother all say they're sorry and they want you at Thanksgiving? Then I'll consider coming home for Christmas, but not Thanksgiving. I made other plans. I hadn't, but I would. Dad accepted this with the resignation of a man who knew he was outmaneuvered. Your mother won't like it. My mother will survive. Give Chloe and Leo my love. Thanksgiving Day, I volunteered at a soup kitchen in Brooklyn. The nonprofit director, a fierce woman named Maria, who'd built the organization from nothing, reminded me why the work mattered. We served 400 meals. I got gravy on my cashmere sweater and laughed more than I had in months. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from Brooke, calls from Mom, even a message from Ethan that said simply, "I'm sorry. I was an idiot. You deserved better." I responded to that one. Yes, I did. Do better. The med supply acquisition closed the week after Thanksgiving. Diana Hayes stayed on as a regional president. Most of the staff kept their positions. Ethan remained as Northeast Regional Sales Manager, reporting to a new VP I'd hired from our Houston office. The integration process revealed more about Ethan than I'd expected. During the first month, I received weekly reports from all regional managers detailing their transition progress. Ethan's reports were meticulous, detailed client lists, territory analysis, competitive landscape assessments. He was trying, really trying. But it was during a routine check-in with our new VP, Julian Peterson, that I got the fuller picture. "Morrison's an interesting case," Julian said, leaning back in his office chair. "He's competent enough, but there's something else going on with him. He stays late every night, comes in early, double-checks everything before it hits my desk. That sounds like dedication. Or terror." Julian gave me a knowing look. "His colleagues mentioned something about a family connection to you." "True. He married my younger sister in July." Julian whistled low. "That explains the hypervigilance. He's trying to prove he's not getting special treatment." Is he getting special treatment? Hell no. If anything, I'm harder on him because of the connection. Don't want anyone thinking nepotism flows upward. He pulled up something on his computer. But here's what's interesting. His Q4 numbers are tracking 22% above his Q3 performance. His client retention is up. He closed 2 deals last week that his predecessor had marked as dead ends. I considered this information carefully. So fear is working as a motivator for now. But sustainable performance comes from confidence, not anxiety. The guy needs to understand that doing good work is enough. That he doesn't have to be perfect to be valued. It was sound advice, the kind that separated decent managers from great ones. Talk to him. Let him know where he stands. Use actual metrics, not vague reassurances. Julian nodded. Will do. And for what it's worth, whatever family drama preceded the situation, he seems to genuinely respect you now. Mentions you in team meetings sometimes. Ms. Hartwell's standards this. The COO's expectations that. It's almost reverential. After Julian left, I sat in my office considering the complexities of what had unfolded. I hadn't set out to teach Ethan a lesson or humble him. The acquisition had been pure business. The timing coincidental. Yet, somehow it had forced a reckoning that needed to happen. My phone buzzed with a text from Brooke. Ethan said his boss talked to him today about his performance. He came home actually smiling. "Thank you for whatever you did." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I opened my email and found the message Ethan had sent that morning. A routine status update on a client pitch. Professional, thorough, no hint of the personal turmoil underneath. That evening, I did something I rarely allowed myself. I scrolled through Brooke's Facebook feed, looking at the family life I'd kept at arm's length for years. Photos of Chloe's dance recital. Leo dressed as a dinosaur for Halloween. Brooke and Ethan at some charity event, both smiling, his arm around her waist. There was a post from 3 weeks ago, right after the acquisition announcement went public. Brooke had shared a news article about the Hartman Med Supply merger with the caption, "So proud of my brilliant sister. She's changing the industry." The comment section was filled with responses from relatives and family friends. "Aunt Brenda, your sister is absolutely remarkable." "Dad's brother, Uncle Mark, that's our Natalie." Even Mom had commented, "She's always been extraordinary. We're blessed to have her." It was strange seeing my professional accomplishments filtered through the lens of family pride. For so long, those worlds had remained separate. My success, something they acknowledged but never quite embraced. Now, forced by circumstance to confront exactly what I built, they seemed genuinely impressed rather than vaguely uncomfortable. But there was a darker thread in some comments too. A cousin I barely knew had written, "Must be nice to have all that power. Hope she remembers where she came from." Someone else, a family friend whose name I didn't recognize, "Career women always sacrifice something. Money isn't everything." Brooke had responded to both with fierce defenses. To the cousin, "She remembers perfectly and she's never acted superior about any of it. We forgot to celebrate her properly." To the family friend, "She sacrificed nothing. She built something incredible while we made her feel guilty for it." I closed Facebook, feeling oddly emotional. My sister was fighting battles on my behalf that I didn't even know needed fighting. At the post-closing dinner 2 days later, Diana Hayes pulled me aside during the cocktail hour. The restaurant was one of those San Francisco establishments that catered to corporate celebrations, muted lighting, impeccable service, prices that made people whisper. "Ethan's wife called me last week," Diana said, swirling her martini. "Brooke, right? She wanted to know if her husband's job was secure." "What did you tell her?" "That he's competent at what he does, and competent people keep their jobs." Then I told her she'd raised an interesting question. Was he being evaluated on his merits or his family connections? Linda's expression sharpened. She didn't like that much. "Got defensive," said Ethan worked hard and deserved to be judged fairly. "How did you respond?" "Told her that's exactly what was happening. Fair evaluation. No favoritism in either direction." She paused, studying my face. She also asked me something else. "Wanted to know if you were the vindictive type." The question hung in the air between us. Around us, executives mingled and laughed, celebrating a successful deal. The ambient noise of success. "What did you tell her?" "That in my 15 years of working with you across 3 different companies, I've never seen you make a decision based on personal feelings. You're ruthless about results but fair about people." Diana took a sip of her drink. Then I asked her why she was worried, why she thought her sister might be vindictive. And she got quiet. Then she said something interesting. She said, "We heard her. I heard her. And she had every right to hurt Ethan back, but she didn't." Diana's voice softened. Started crying right there on the phone. Full breakdown. Apologizing to me, a stranger, for how her family treated you. Said she'd spent years being jealous of your success instead of proud. That she'd let her husband uninvite you from Thanksgiving because it was easier than confronting her own insecurity. I felt something twist in my chest. I told her that relationships worth having are relationships worth repairing. That you'd given Ethan a chance to prove himself rather than destroying him. That speaks to character. He's doing well then. He's doing very well. But Natalie, and I'm speaking as your friend now, not as a colleague. How are you doing? This can't have been easy. The question surprised me. In the corporate world, personal feelings were things you managed privately. Vulnerabilities you never exposed. But Diana had known me long enough to see past the professional facade. I'm fine. It's been complicated, but I'm handling it. You're always handling it. That's not the same as processing it. She set down her glass. For what it's worth, I think you played this perfectly. You maintained professionalism while allowing natural consequences to unfold. Ethan learned something important. Your family learned something important. And you stood your ground without compromising your integrity. Thank you for saying that. He knows he got lucky. Not lucky that you didn't fire him. Lucky that you're the kind of person who wouldn't fire him for personal reasons in the first place. Diana glanced across the room where Ethan stood with several other managers, nursing a beer, looking uncomfortable in his suit. December arrived with its usual San Francisco chaos, holiday parties, end-of-year reporting, budget planning for the coming fiscal year. I worked 12-hour days and loved every minute of it. The office threw its annual holiday party at a venue in Soma. Open bar, catered food, a DJ playing tasteful background music that nobody really listened to. I made my obligatory rounds, chatting with department heads, and thanking team members for their contributions to a successful year. Ethan attended with several other regional managers who'd made the trip to San Francisco. I watched him from across the room, noting how he seemed to relax as the evening progressed. He laughed at someone's joke. He didn't look toward me every 5 seconds like he had during the first few weeks post-acquisition. Julian Peterson approached me near the end of the party. Morrison asked me something today. Wanted to know if it would be inappropriate to give you a Christmas card. I raised an eyebrow. What did you tell him? That I wasn't going to advise him on family dynamics, but professionally speaking, holiday cards from regional managers to executives aren't unusual. Julian grinned. He turned bright red and said it wasn't about being professional. It was about being personal. Then he asked if you were the type to appreciate genuine apologies or if he should just leave well enough alone. You're enjoying this way too much. Can you blame me? The drama is better than anything on television. He grew more serious. But genuinely, he seems to be grappling with how to navigate the situation. He respects the boundary between personal and professional, but he also clearly wants to make amends on a family level. What do you think he should do? I think that's between you, him, and your sister. I'm just the guy who evaluates his sales targets. Julian clinked his glass against mine. For what it's worth, though, he's becoming a solid team member. The fear is fading. The confidence is staying. Later that week, a card arrived at my office. Sarah brought it in with the afternoon mail, and I recognized the handwriting on the envelope immediately. Neat, careful, unfamiliar. Inside was a simple Christmas card with a winter landscape on the front. The message inside was written in the same careful hand. Natalie, I don't know if this is appropriate or if you'll even read it, but I needed to try. I've spent the last month understanding just how badly I misjudged you and how much damage my insecurity caused. You've been nothing but professional and fair, which makes my behavior even more inexcusable. I convinced Brooke to exclude you from Thanksgiving because I felt threatened by your success. I told myself it was about family dynamics, but really it was about my own inadequacy. Meeting you, really meeting you, understanding who you are and what you've built, showed me how small I'd been. You could have destroyed my career. You had every justification. Instead, you held me to a standard and trusted me to meet it. That's leadership. That's integrity. I'm working every day to prove I deserve the chance you gave me. I'm also working every day to be the kind of man your sister and her children deserve. Thank you for both the professional opportunity and the personal lesson. Merry Christmas, Ethan. I read the card 3 times, standing in my kitchen with my coat still on from the commute home. It was a good apology, specific, taking full ownership, acknowledging harm without making excuses. I tucked it into my desk drawer and didn't respond. Some things deserved acknowledgement without reply. The following Monday, I had lunch with Sarah, my executive assistant, who'd been with me for 6 years. We were reviewing calendar items for January when she set down her fork and looked at me directly. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. The situation with your brother-in-law. Is it resolved? I considered how much to share. Sarah knew more about my life than most people. She fielded family calls, booked flights home for emergencies, sent flowers for birthdays I'd otherwise forget. She'd earned some honesty. It's complicated. The professional situation is stable. The personal situation is still unfolding. He sent you a card. I saw it in the office mail this morning before I brought it up. You're very observant. It's literally my job. She smiled. I'm glad he apologized. You deserved that. But Natalie, you also deserve to have your family fully understand what you've accomplished here. Not just respect it from a distance, but really get it. I'm not sure that's possible. Their lives are so different from mine. Have you ever tried to show them? Like, really show them what a day in your life looks like? What you're responsible for? Sarah leaned forward. I've worked for 3 COOs before you. You're the best I've seen. Fair, strategic, incredibly good at reading people and situations. Your family sees successful businesswoman. They don't see you navigating a $16 million contract negotiation at 9 a.m. and then handling a personnel crisis in the Denver office by noon. They don't see you mentoring junior staff or the way you remember everyone's names at company events. They definitely don't see you working until 8 p.m. most nights because you actually care about doing the job right. Her words settled over me. You think I should let them in more? I think you kept them at a distance because it was safer. Because their lack of understanding hurt less if you didn't try to make them understand. But now they're trying. Maybe it's worth meeting them halfway. 2 weeks before Christmas, Brooke called. I need to say something and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Her voice was steady, determined. I've been a terrible sister. Not just about Thanksgiving, but for years. I've been jealous of your success and instead of being happy for you, I've minimized it. I've let other people minimize it. I've acted like your career was less important than my family when the truth is you built something incredible and I've never acknowledged it. I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, saying nothing. Ethan told me what you said to him about proving his value and doing his job. He said you could have destroyed his career and instead you held him to a standard. He said that's what real leaders do. She paused. He's been different since the acquisition. More focused, more humble. He comes home and talks about work stuff he's learning. It's like meeting you forced him to grow up. Ashley, I'm not done. Mom and Dad and I have been talking, really talking, about how we've treated you, about how we've never really celebrated who you are and what you've accomplished, and we want to change that. We want to do better. My throat tightened. That's a nice sentiment. It's more than sentiment. Dad Googled you. Like, really Googled you. He found that article in Forbes about women in pharmaceutical leadership. He printed it out and put it on the refrigerator. Mom's been telling everyone at church that her daughter is a COO. She actually understands what that means now. Despite myself, I smiled. How's Chloe? Missing her aunt. She made you a Christmas card. It's got glitter everywhere. Fair warning. Brooke's voice went soft. Will you come home for Christmas? Please, we want to try again. We want to do it right this time. I looked around my apartment. Expensive, beautiful, empty. Success had a price, and loneliness was part of the bill. I'll come for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas morning. Then I'm driving back because I have a meeting on the 26th. Really? You'll come? Really? But Brooke, if anyone, Ethan, Mom, anyone, makes one comment about me being too busy or too focused on work or needing to find a man and settle down, I'm leaving. I mean it. Deal. Thank you, Nat. And one more thing. Next Thanksgiving, I'm hosting in San Francisco. Anyone who wants to join me can come to the city. I'll order from that restaurant Mom loves. The one she always talks about from her trip here 10 years ago. Brooke laughed. She'll love that. Fair warning, though. Ethan's going to be super weird around you. He's terrified and impressed in equal measure. Good. He should be both. Christmas Eve at my parents' house in suburban Ohio had a different feeling than any holiday I could remember. Dad hugged me at the door and held on longer than usual. Mom cried happy tears this time and immediately pulled out the Forbes article to show me, as if I hadn't read it myself. She'd printed and framed a piece about women executives in the pharmaceutical industry from earlier in the year. Chloe and Leo attacked me with hugs and sticky fingers. Ethan shook my hand formally and said, "Thank you for coming, Natalie. And thank you for giving me the chance to prove myself." Keep proving it, I said, but I smiled when I said it. Dinner was chaotic in the way family dinners should be, overlapping conversations, too much food, Dad's terrible jokes, Mom fussing over everyone. But something fundamental had shifted. When Mom asked about work, she actually listened to my answer. When Dad talked to his brother, Uncle Mark, on the phone, I heard him say, "My daughter's a COO," with genuine pride. Brooke pulled me aside while we were cleaning up. I got you something. It's not much, but... She handed me a small box wrapped in silver paper. Inside was a keychain, simple silver with an engraving, "World's best sister, even when we forget it." I hugged her then, really hugged her, and felt some of the old closeness return. Later that night, after Chloe and Leo were in bed and the adults were having coffee in the living room, Ethan cleared his throat. I owe everyone an apology, but especially Natalie. He looked directly at me. I was intimidated by your success before I even met you properly. Brooke talked about her sister in San Francisco, and instead of being curious or supportive, I felt threatened. When I found out what you really do, who you really are, I panicked. I thought you'd judge me or look down on our family. And now? I asked. Now I understand that you've never been the problem. My insecurity was. You've been nothing but professional and fair. You held me to a standard and trusted me to meet it. That's more respect than I deserved. He looked at Brooke. And I'm sorry I asked you to exclude your sister from our family. That was wrong. Mom was crying again. Dad looked uncomfortable but nodded approvingly. Brooke squeezed Ethan's hand. Thank you for saying that, I said. And for the record, I never wanted to be separate from this family. I just wanted to be myself and have that be enough. It is enough, Mom said. It's more than enough, sweetheart. We're so sorry it took us this long to show you that. We stayed up talking until midnight, and it felt like something had healed. The conversations flowed naturally, about work, about family, about everything. Nobody diminished my career or suggested I was missing out by not having kids. Nobody made jokes about me being married to my job. Christmas morning was pure chaos with Chloe and Leo tearing through presents. Dad gave me a leather portfolio with Natalie Hartwell, COO, embossed on the front. Mom gave me a photo album filled with family pictures spanning 3 decades, with a note on the first page, so you remember where you come from, and so we remember to celebrate where you've gone. I drove back to San Francisco on Christmas afternoon with a full heart and a backseat full of leftovers Mom had insisted I take. The city welcomed me back with its usual indifference, traffic, noise, energy. My apartment was quiet but no longer lonely. Work resumed after the holidays with the intensity I'd always thrived on. Ethan sent me a quarterly report in mid-January that showed a 15% increase in his territory's numbers. The note attached said simply, "Thank you for the opportunity to prove myself." I forwarded it to Diana with a message, "This is what good management looks like." Brooke and I started talking every week. Real conversations about our lives, our challenges, our hopes. She asked questions about my work that showed genuine interest. I asked about Chloe's school play and Leo's soccer games. We were rebuilding something better than what we had before. In March, I was featured in a prominent business publication piece about women in leadership. Dad called the day it published. "I'm framing this one, too," he said. "And Nat, I'm sorry I ever asked when you got so hard. You're not hard. You're strong. There's a difference, and I should have known it. Thanks, Dad. Your mother wants to plan a party. She's calling it a celebration of Natalie's achievements. Fair warning, she's inviting everyone. The whole family, neighbors, probably the mailman." I laughed. "Tell her to send me the details." The party happened in April at a restaurant in Baltimore that Mom had researched for weeks. Extended family came, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Mom had created a slideshow of my career milestones. Dad gave a speech that made me cry. Brooke stood up toward the end of the evening. "I want to say something about my sister. Growing up, I never understood why she was so driven, why she studied while I played, why she worked while I socialized. I thought she was missing out on life." She looked at me across the crowded room. But Nat wasn't missing out. She was building something. She was becoming someone. And instead of celebrating that, our family spent years making her feel like she had to choose between success and belonging. We were wrong. She deserves both. She's always deserved both. The room applauded. Ethan raised his glass. Mom wiped tears from her face. I stood and raised my own glass. To family, the one we're born into and the one we choose to build. And to second chances. The next morning, I drove back to San Francisco with a full heart and a clear understanding. I'd never needed their approval to be successful, but having their genuine support and pride made the success sweeter. I'd proven I could stand alone, which meant I no longer had to. Ethan continued to excel in his role. He and Brooke bought a bigger house in June. Chloe got her braces. Leo made the advanced reading group. And the following Thanksgiving, just as I promised, everyone came to San Francisco. I rented out Mom's favorite restaurant for the whole family. We ate too much, laughed until we cried, and built new memories that had room for everyone I'd become. Because in the end, that's what mattered. Not the revenge, not the moment of revelation, but what came after. The rebuilding, the growth, the family that learned to celebrate every version of themselves, including the daughter who dared to be extraordinary. Ethan still calls me Ms. Hartwell at functions, which makes Brooke roll her eyes every time. But he does it with respect now, not fear, and sometimes that makes all the difference. I still work 12-hour days. I still love my career with a passion that some people don't understand. But now when I go home for holidays, I'm not shrinking myself to fit through the door. I'm walking in as exactly who I am, the COO, the sister, the aunt, the daughter, all of it without apology. And nobody asks me to ruin the vibe anymore. What would you have done in my position?